Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullsht. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So, I had a couple of other topics that had come to me in the last 24 hours, but none of them were in alignment right now. And so, this is probably going to be a little bit of a riff episode. There might be some rabbit trails that we go down, all of the things, right? But part of what's coming through right now is how quickly something can change. So I was in my garden the other day, and as I like to do in my garden, I like to have conversations with myself, and I get a lot of downloads throughout the day. Always having conversations with myself or God or my highest self or whatever, right? Just there's a lot of conversations that go on in my head. A lot of interesting downloads that come through. My coach always laughs at me when I send him a message and I'm like, oh, this is what came through. And he's like, I don't even know what to do with you, Steph, right? Like, this is entertaining. And a lot of them are funny, actually. I remember one time I was on a long bike ride one morning, and I just started laughing to myself as I'm pedaling down the bike path. I remember exactly where I was because I just thought it was so funny. And I called my husband and I said, I said, listen to this thought that just came through. And he was like, oh, dear God, what? And I said, you know what I realized while I was cycling today? That you're never going to leave me, because I can't disappoint you nearly as much as the Detroit Lions football team has disappointed you. And you are still a Lions fan. And he was like, wow, that's really mean, honey. And I was like, no, this is true. Like, if you've been a Lions fan for this long and they disappoint you year after year after year after year and haven't yet made it to the Super Bowl, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do that would ever make you leave me because you're so committed to this football team. And he was like, wow. I said, I think that's really funny. And I shared it later on in the day on Facebook, and I got a lot of laughs on it. And one of my girlfriends was like, that's incredible. I love that, right? And so there's just these interesting conversations that come through. But the other day when I was in the garden, I was contemplating the belief around how long something takes, because I have a pretty lofty goal for this month, and I had a deadline essentially that I wanted to meet, and I didn't meet it. And so I was reflecting on it and saying, okay, what about this process was like, what didn't work essentially? And the thing was, I thought I was committed, and I really wasn't. I wasn't committed for the reasons that would actually benefit the process, I guess. So what do I mean by that? I mean that I was showing up from a space of lack rather than a space of abundance. And I was worrying, essentially, about how long it was going to take, right? And really doubting the process. And that was in the garden the other day. And then so yesterday I went for a run, and as I was moving through kind of this stagnant energy, which I love to do on my runs, when I run and when I go for a bike ride are two of the most powerful things for me to just get my thoughts moving and like create clarity around these things. And so when I was on my run yesterday, I was thinking about, this next level that I want to move to. And on Sunday afternoon, I had read this little post that had come up on Instagram. It wasn't somebody I was following. It was like one of those suggested follow people. And this person was talking about the saying of burn the boats. And went through like the whole historical context of this saying, where when new settlers were showing up on the shores, they would burn the boats, as in like, there's no way getting home. Like, this is it. This is what we've committed to. And so when I was on my run yesterday, I kept getting this little nudge of like, burn the boat, Steph. Burn the boat. Why are you not going all in on this thing when you know that when you commit to something, it happens? And so as I was running yesterday, I could feel like the energy start to build, and I was like, burn the boat, burn the freaking boat, burn the freaking boat. And there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to burn the boat, right? Like, just in case I don't like this situation, I want an exit strategy. But the more I ran, the more I realized that having that exit strategy was actually keeping me stuck. And so by the end of the run, I had decided that the boats were burned. The boats were burned. This was it. This was how it was going to happen. And it showed up pretty quickly yesterday. In smaller ways, but it was beautiful, right? Like, so the first thing that came through was the business that my husband and I have. The phone was ringing off the hook yesterday. I had 4 or 5 different estimates that I put together that had all been approved today, where payments are coming in today. And usually these things happen in 3 for me. And then I got a text from a girlfriend, and she said, hey, by the way, you want a free blowout at the dry bar. And I was like, what do you mean I want a free blowout? Thus the hair. It looks great today. I just had the blowout this morning. Check out the YouTube video if you're listening to this podcast, because the hair does look really good. Got a free blowout today, and then sold one of our old baby strollers in the afternoon. And so there was just abundance all around me that once I kind of took down the wall, it was like, oh, here. And you're like, oh, is that all it took? Because that was fun, right? And part of that run yesterday was, I've been reading a lot of these different books right now, and some of the YouTube people that I watch have talked about this like hustle energy. And I don't love the idea of hustle energy. It feels exhausting to me. And so part of that run yesterday was working through that hustle energy. And I got the download of like, what if hustle doesn't mean what you want it to mean? What if hustle was like alignment energy? What if you hustled in alignment? What if hustle was just, what was the note for it? I want to find this note because it was actually really good what came through yesterday. And I like to just take notes of this. If I can find it very quickly. Because I definitely wrote it down in the middle of my run. Okay, so here it is. What if hustle actually meant in alignment? What if it didn't mean like this grinding energy where you're like forcing something? What if it was actually in alignment? And I was like, well, shoot, I could be in alignment and hustle, and that feels so much better to me, right? Like, what if the fast, I think that's what it meant because it didn't actually write it down correctly. What if fast didn't mean hustle, it meant in alignment? How quickly can something happen when you're in alignment? And the answer is instantaneously. I've seen it happen for my clients. I've seen it happen in my own life. I will forever remember this instance. When I was first starting my business, I had just signed a year-long contract with my mentor. And the first payment was $1,500 for that first month. And I had no idea how I was going to make it. But I was like, you know what? I know that starting my own business is what I'm meant to do. And so that money's going to come through before the first payment's due on the 15th. It was due on January 15th. And January 14th, still nothing. 0, right? Like, no one had reached out to me, nothing. And I was like, you know what? No, like, I know that this is what I'm meant for, and I know it's going to come through. That morning, January 15th, still nothing. And there was a babysitter coming over because I had a riding lesson Yep, that's where we're at. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm waiting for something to come through. I know it's going to come through. It just hasn't come through yet. I said, but I trust it's going to. And a couple hours later, I got a message from someone that I hadn't spoken to at all. She sent me a private message on Facebook and she said, how much does it cost to work with you? And I told her, and she said, okay, send me an invoice. And she paid in full, $1,500. She paid it in full that day, the day that it was due. And I was like, wow, it does happen instantaneously when you can shift into alignment instantaneously. Now, here's the thing. Here's a little caveat here. You have to know what alignment feels like. And in order to know what alignment feels like, you have to check in with yourself. Does this feel good to me? Does it not feel good to me? Because chances are you know, and you can start really small with these things, right? I have people, my clients will start really small with something as simple as asking yourself yes or no questions as to what your name is. Is your name Bethany? No. It's Stephanie, though. Some people do call me Bethany because they're like, oh, Bethany, when I call on the phone. I'm like, no, Stephanie, right? But that allows you to start to trust on bigger and bigger and bigger things. If you want guidance on the big things, you got to trust in the little things. Because if you don't trust in the little things, you're never going to trust the guidance in the big thing anyways. So you've got to build that trust with yourself, starting with those small things, starting with conversations with yourself. I bet you're actually quite entertaining when you have those conversations with yourself. My husband thinks I'm crazy because I could legitimately have a conversation with 14 different people in my head at the same time. Sometimes I even bring in other people, where like I'll bring in one of my mentors, and I'll have a conversation with them in regards to what I'm moving through. It makes mentoring me pretty easy. My current mentor laughs every time. I'm like, listen, you don't even need to listen to this audio. I actually sent him a message the other day. I was like, you don't even need to listen to this audio. I'm just going to process this verbally and have an answer to my own question by the end of it. And he was like, yep, probably. You always do, right? So, nothing specific here. Just a fun conversation with you. And so I would love to connect with you on Instagram. That is where I hang out more often than not. If you do like this video, you do want to connect with me, I would love if you would like or subscribe. I would really appreciate that. Or share it with somebody who you're like, you know what, this girl, she's fun. Let's share this. I would love that. That would make me so happy. So I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.